just a couple seconds. Hi everyone, it is Rose Ferrachi and I'm here with Nico of Scarlet Moon. I hope that you enjoyed this video. We have a lot of things to talk about. Nico and I had spoken last week. I watch Nico's videos and I really enjoy a lot of the things he has to say. I followed his work with Christopher Smith and I've actually been following Nico for a while now, and I really enjoy his energy, and I really enjoy a lot of what he does. And so I am inviting him to do this video, this event with me, as I have with others, people that I feel are of an energy of unity. And this is what this is about today, about integrating and communing and connecting, not only with ourselves, but with each other, because as light workers, we are here to work together. We're not here to compete. We're not here to say who's right or who's wrong or anything like that. This is about us working together and for, you know, your highest good, to assist everyone that we possibly can. And there's a lot of good points that Nico and I had discussed last week together. And I would like to bring some of them out because Nico did have some great things to say and share. And I just want to welcome you, Nico. Thank you for joining me today. Let's start off by talking about what we had brought up about the unison, that bringing forth, you know, this to raise consciousness, to raise the vibration of this entire vast consciousness of helping and assisting others to stand in their truth, to reconnect with themselves and in spirit as well, to help them in their path. So we, as you know, what we do in our work, we do, you know, similar things, but yet we do also different things. Me as I do also tarot and oracle cards, and I also do light body energy healing type work, and of course mentoring, and I've got you know all kinds of things on my plate that I do as well as you do. And we do see a lot out there. We do deal with what's going on with a lot of people, and sometimes this seems to be a theme. And it's what it comes down to for me is that getting people to stand in their truth and finding out where they're at, and also to reconnect with themselves. So in this line of work, Nico, I really would like your take on this whole thing of that we are all going through. We're all on the same boat, so to speak. We are all going through our, you know, individual experiences here, but at the same time, though, we're not alone. There's a lot of people going and dealing with the same things. And thank you again for joining me today. So
of course, no, thank you for having me. One of the things that I would say, probably the biggest thing that everyone is going through at the same time, you know, whenever everyone talks about saying things like unplug from the matrix, or, you know, don't believe the illusion, you know, this is not a real reality, you know, we're kind of going through this universal unplug right now. You know, that's the best way I can describe it. And I think that everyone is getting unplugged in different ways. And sometimes you're getting unplugged involuntarily, because, you know, if there is no separation, then what's good for the world is also something that we do need to take into account. And I think that sometimes when we go through, you know, a really challenging experience, whether it has to do with our health, whether it has to do with our romantic lives, our spiritual pursuits, money, whatever, I think that what happens is we can kind of see where we're being unplugged from that illusion. And I think that for a lot of spiritual people, a lot of light workers, a lot of seekers out there, there's always still more to unplug from. You know, so-and-so may have found the way to unplug from, you know, the money grid, as I call it, you know, and they're happy and they're successful and they're living their life away from reliance on the money grid. But they may be plugged into other conditions and other programs. You know, maybe it's the way they raise their kids. Maybe it's the way they find a romantic partner. Maybe it's the way they don't connect to spirit, or, you know, maybe it's a half measure. And especially now, I'm going to say probably, and you know, from mid-November, astrologically, all the way up until probably early February, you know, we're going to be dealing with where are our half measures? Where are our half measures? You know, and everyone's got a different lesson to learn with their half measures. I think, you know, because some people, like I said, you cheat a little bit on your health, you know, or you let yourself fall too hard for somebody you don't know, and that's ego, not love. And so what happens is that we're all being tested in those areas, and some people are tested in other ways than some. And what a lot of people are also, I think, collectively doing on a geopolitical level is they're being asked if they're ready to do without a system. You know, are you ready to do without a system? Because the big test, and the big test of this whole shift from, you know, like everyone's talking about 2011, 2012, all this kind of stuff, you know, or even if you go back to like the harmonic convergence back in the late 80s, you know, you've got this sort of, I think that some people are trying to apply these spiritual truths to fixing a system and keeping the system. And you can't really do that sometimes. It's like, you know, it's almost like if you are trying to leave a really abusive relationship, but instead of leaving the relationship, you're just trying to turn your abusive partner into a whole new person that you don't have to leave. And so when we get into situations, especially right now, where where a lot of spiritual people are buying into the idea that at the end of the day, it's all about twin flames and lottery tickets, or it's, you know, it's still like, how do I apply this in the system? And the whole thing is like, no, we're trying to leave the system. And because the system is also what creates that illusion of separation. You know, it feeds into that competitiveness. It feeds into, you know, the idea that, you know, well, I don't need to have empathy for what's going on in Eastern Europe right now, or I don't have to have, you know, this doesn't, it's not a part of my body. And in a sense, it is a part of your body. And a lot of people are going through issues right now, kind of connecting to what their, you know, what their self-sabotage is. You know, where are they still kind of giving into the system? You know, it's, I sometimes I say it's trying to apply higher dimensional frequencies to low vibrational priorities. And a lot of people are starting to realize that they don't mix.
Absolutely, I agree with that. And I guess we just realize that we are still on some sort of a merry-go-round. And
the merry-go-round's going to continue for a little bit. It is.
Yeah.
A lot of people want to get preoccupied with things like the government, which is a very interesting macrocosm to look at if you're smart enough to know it's just a macrocosm, you know, because, you know, there's always the microcosm, the macrocosm. So what's going on in you is always going to show up in a reflection out there. And whether you're it doesn't matter what government you're talking about at this point in time, as far as superpowers are concerned, you know, they're not really having an easy time dealing with these higher energies either. You know, certainly not in the US or in the UK, certainly not in China, certainly not in Russia. And it's almost like you're holding on to your baby blanket or your cradle, and you don't want to let it go, but you're being pulled by your legs to go in the other direction. And a lot of people, even to this day, you know, they want to ascend, they want to have this global spiritual awakening, but then they're doing it behind the guise of, when I have this spiritual awakening, I'm going to know how to play the stock market, you know, or I'm going to know how to buy a yacht, or, you know, get famous, or, you know, do something that's not a part of the actual intention, the intended, you know, portion of it. And so again, in a sense, they're still separating themselves, or artificially separating themselves is probably a better way to put it.
Yes, we create more illusions for ourselves. we tend to still fragment and separate and go into often these tunnel visions, as I like to call them, because once we get into this moment of realization and we begin to become more aware of things spiritually on the energetic level or what have you, then what happens to a lot of us, and you know, a few years back I did get caught up in that a little bit, and but it's, you know, we get caught up in, oh, it's all about the government, anti-government, where, you know, they're the reptilians, you know, things like that, you know, or it's just all galactic, or it's all about, you know, let's just create abundance, or let's all go off the grid, you know, and so it's, you know, somebody that I did a video recently with, he calls it fear porn, which is basically, it's all run against, you know, we're victim of our circumstances, we're a victim of society, we're a victim of this and that, and we have to put up our guard and we have to fight, and that's just not helping much at all, you know, and we're not doing our inner work, and we're supposed to go within, and we're supposed to take a look at ourselves and know, really, you know, that everything is in divine order, that we are here for this vast, you know, experience, to have this human experience. And it's not about conquering and fighting and resisting anything and everything all around us.
Yeah.
That actually delves us deeper into this black hole, I like to call it, you know, just for lack of better words. So we just delve deeper, and then we lose sight again, and we lose ourselves in it. And
We
then,
do.
so I mean, it's hard to get out of that when we have blinders on, and the, you know, thick wall in front of us as well, and the veils are down too. We kind of create that all of ourselves, you know, and then it's about, you know, everything is our enemy. Then why am I here? And a lot of people do go into that mode, and then we lose sight of everything. And it's not about that. It's not about, you know, creating a deeper hole for ourselves, you know, while we're digging ourselves in deep. And it's opening your eyes, yes, lift the veils and see everything for what it is, but understand that it is about us raising ourselves up and seeing from higher perspective, and looking through spirit eye, looking through, you know, our soul, and seeing it for what it is. It's a beautiful experience, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of beautiful things happening, and it is a very exciting time to be here right now. And so we are here, you know, we're here to come out of that shell that we've been in for eons, and but not in the way that we're going to go backwards and totally defeat the purpose of this time that we are in right now. And it's going to get more intense.
Yes. I honestly think that, you know, just looking ahead, like I said, looking at the alignments and things like that, I'm very interested in the first 3 months of 2016. So I'm not even going to give you a date that's like far in the future, subject to whatever. I'm kind of feeling like collectively there are going to be some movements that are much more assertive, you know, and maybe that might be assertive in the form of aggression, which, you know, maybe half of them will be, and that's not what we want, but the other half kind of do set that example. And that's where you go into the topic of community, you know, and, you know, the title, well, it's not the title, but the etymology of our, you know, of our work here, of our video here, communing in unity. We've also got to deal with the boundaries that we put up as we begin our spiritual journey. Because I believe in boundaries, you know, and making sure and everything's good, you know, taking care of your energy, all that kind of stuff. But what I notice a lot of is sometimes, and even within myself, you know, boundaries can be so strong and so tall and so thick that, you know, again, you're creating, you're kind of feeding into a different kind of illusion. And sometimes on the spiritual path, there is this temptation towards what I call self-fascination. You know, we get so fascinated with ourselves. You know, can you please just give me every story of every past life I've ever had, and let's talk about me. And it's this self-fascination is a boundary. It's a very clever psychological boundary, because when you go within, you're supposed to be, you're not meant to pull everyone in with you. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know, there has to be a balance. So going within doesn't mean you go within and then you yank your best friend, your husband, and your daughter, and your dad out in there with you to go within. You can do that with people that you actually have that powerful energy exchange with. And we're learning how to actually have that exchange right now. We're learning how to have open-hearted, open-sharing communication. You know, we're getting rid of ideas of status and value, which are also illusory. Yeah, I honestly think that one of the biggest prisons that we have is the assumption that value must come as dictated by an outside source, whether it's a label, like a fashion label, or you know, a retail label, or it's a relationship status, you know, because but value, what we attach value to, and what we attach value to right now. Oh my gosh, sorry about that. Toby is. He doesn't like it when I sit and talk to this box for too long because I'm ignoring him. What we attach value to is it's not real. You know, relationships, we can value relationships, but it's not because we attach value there. It's because we make value there. And I'm always asking people when it comes to things like relationships or careers or whatever the hell you prioritize in your life, does it make love or does it take love? Because if it takes love, you need to balance how you're devoting energy to this. If something that you're doing takes so much love that it actually detracts from having a balanced, holistic life, if it takes a lot of love, if your career takes all the love away from your family and your friends and your spirit, it's taking love, it's not making love. If you have a relationship that is so intensive and so involved that, again, it's competing and drawing that, you know, because I think that energy is quantifiable. Energy is a resource, love is a resource. And so if it's taking all of that, you know, if it's taking love and not making love, then we're out of balance, you know. And that also, again, challenges the opportunity to have community, because as friends or family or whatever we all are together, what can happen is that we enter into sort of these love contracts, and we already decide, is this going to make or take love, and is this going to allow me anything to be able to connect or commune with another human being or spirit, you know, or God or source, whatever you want to say it is. And if you get to a point where you're making so many of these contracts, you know, that you are just basically creating the money system again, only with, you know, intangible spiritual energy, then you haven't grown. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like you created another currency. And I think that right now, what we're seeing in the world geopolitically is the idea of currency itself. You know, everyone, you know, how even a lot of people, it's like money's just energy, money's not bad. True, but the fact that it's currency, the fact that we have currency, the fact that the currency situation itself is so important, and it's become maligned, it's not in balance. I just put up a video on my vlog channel about how, you know, a lot of our society and its concepts of justice are not the same as spiritual justice, you know, man's law versus spiritual law. And one of the things I talked about was we don't live in a world of equitable exchange. We really don't. Whether it's equal pay for equal work, or equal award or reward for, you know, for efforts, or even consequences. And I think that right now, when it comes to currency, we are seeing currency being sort of put in front of the firing squad in a big way. We can artificially inflate the stock market if we want to. We can artificially inflate the real estate market if we want to, because a lot of people are still up trying, even if they're waking up, they're still trying to apply higher dimensional principles to lower dimensional principles. And so they kind of go into it. They kind of go and work through that energy. And when you see something like currency trying to be erased as it is, you know, by the powers that be, you got to think about it in yourself. Again, come back to the microcosm, come within. Where am I thinking way too much in terms of currency, whether it's financial, emotional, you know, energetic health currency, emotional, you know, psychological currency? Where am I thinking with too much of a currency mind? You know, obviously, as things are right now, we do need to survive. Hopefully, you know, things will change sooner than later, where there will be a better system in place, or, you know, no system. You know, maybe we're not meant to have, you know, these giant corporate countries, you know, and so it changes. You know, that would be great. You know, and that would also push towards more unity, more you know, more community. But at this point in time, you know, understand when you're doing something as a formality, which is okay, versus something which is a diehard principle of yours, because you might be, again, you're putting up a block, you're kind of playing into the illusion some more, you know. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with wanting to, you know, live a certain way that you want to live, but again, how much is it taking love versus making love?
Absolutely, it is. We have to get to this point to where I do this a lot with a lot of my clients. I get a lot of them where that's the main focus. It's either somebody that is in dire need in their mind of needing a relationship, or
Right.
needing more money, needing this, needing that, and it's a lack energy that we just end up getting all totally enthralled in, and therefore we're just aligning ourselves with more of what we don't have or don't want. And when I talk to my clients, I say, well, okay, you know what, you need to stop right there. Just stop.
Yeah.
Enough focusing on what you don't have. You don't have a boyfriend, girlfriend. You don't have a, you know, enough money. You don't have the job that you like, or what have you. It just, the list goes on. And when you just focus on, thank you for what I do have, and thank you that it's all provided for, all the resources, you know, to get me through another day, to get me from point A to point B, or what have you. Thank you that it's there and it's been provided.
Right.
And then what happens is that when they actually put that into practice, and they understand that what I'm trying to communicate to them, to look at themselves and look at what they're aligning themselves with, then suddenly things just start falling into place unexpectedly, inexplicably, miraculously, and they didn't even have to try so hard. They stopped the stressing, they stopped the worrying. I always, you know, say the energy of intent that we put into our thinking, you know, starting with the words who, what, when, where, why, how, our intent in those words, we could change those words and use them all the time, but our intent that we usually, you know, by default use those words in our thought process, or when we're speaking it, is very limiting, and it just causes, it's just sabotaging for us. And so when I get, you know, a person that is, I'm lonely, I really want to have a relationship. Why am I so lonely? Am I undesirable or what have you? Then I'm changing the focus as I talk to them and say, okay, it's not about that.
Yeah.
You're gonna align yourself to a jerk anyway. You know, it's just at the rate that
Well,
you're going. You know,
I kind of feel like it doesn't matter whether you say it or not. I really don't. I think that words might have power, but if that person's feeling lonely, whether or not they admit it to themselves by the light of day doesn't change a thing. You're still vibrating that energy.
yeah.
Just because you waited until 9 p.m. and you're taking your bath before you go to bed to start thinking about it doesn't mean you're not already vibrating that energy. And that is an important thing to, you know, to kind of look at again within our community. And we talked about this on Skype the other day, where we were talking about a lot of people don't quite understand, you know, the jargon and the wordplay. You know, it's like when we're talking, I was like, I always ask people, all right, what do you think somebody says when they mean raise your frequency? And to them, that always means attitude change or something along those lines, which is a half-truth.
Mm-hmm.
It's a half-truth. I think that you're right. An attitude of gratitude is 1,000,001 times better than an attitude of lack. And you're right, if you can provide gratitude and love for the things that you have, even if you have things that you're dealing with where, you know, you wish you had more, or, you know, or someone or whatever, you know, if you don't focus on the vacuum, you know, you're in good shape. But I think that in this, you know, for a lot of people, getting attached to outcomes, getting attached to future manifestations also blinds them in a big way. You know, is this job going to afford me the yacht and the retirement that I want? You're supposed to live in the present. You know, come back to the present, come back to the present. You're 35 years old. Stop focusing on the yacht you want to buy when you retire. You know, it's never about eyes on the prize. And that is something that I think that, you know, again, there is cultural conditioning. It's never about eyes on the prize. That's why I, you know, in a lot of my teachings, I don't so much talk about what so much as I talk about the how energy manifests. You know, that's why, you know, and I refer to it as magic in my path, but a lot of people, you know, they'll say magic or, you know, energy work or, you know, manifestation, whatever, but it's all the same. And it's how does it work, not what.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't focus enough on the how. And there's your divine masculine right there.
Yep.
Because, you know, the divine masculine is, when people say divine masculine versus divine feminine, I just want to say right now, I don't attribute gender to those terms. I just don't think we have very good terms. When we say the divine masculine, though, there is that element of scientific, or I guess you could say mechanical or mechanism understanding of universal process that really helps in a big way. Because when we have too much of the divine feminine, there's this openness, but sometimes what can happen is the divine feminine is very fluid, you know, and it's very receptive and it's very powerful and it's very, very, you know, it's very effective in its own way, but it's not always crystallized. Does that make sense? It's
Yes.
not always crystallized. The what is the divine feminine, and we've been going through that, waking up everybody, you know, it's like, this is what's happening, this is what's going on, this is what this is. The divine masculine is the how. You know, how are all these things coming to be? Whenever anyone asks me or talks to me, okay, Nico, well, what, you know, it's like, oh, Nico, we just live in a dream, this whole world is an artificial matrix, and I'm like, what's the matrix made of? And when you don't think those questions, there may be a little deficit of divine masculine in there. You know, when it comes to classical elements, you got your earth, air, fire, water, all that stuff, right? One element of masculinity or sacred masculinity is in air. you know, and that is the logic. You know, you do tarot, so air, swords. That's an aspect of the divine masculine a lot of people don't quite understand. You know, because whenever we think of the divine masculine, we think of like super aggressive, primal energies, you know, and there's a primal feminine out there too, by the way. But it's, you know, we think of these like really macho, again, 3D concepts, but with the mental, that is the, you know, that is also the divine masculine. There is a lack, I think, which is why some people can manifest, why some people, and practicing the lexicon for years on end, haven't gotten past step 2, that anyone is good or anyone's bad, anyone's smart or anyone's stupid. It's to say it's, again, not balanced. So what do we do with that? You know, how do we change that? How do we fix that? Well, I think a big part of it is that we need to start communing in unity. You know, we need to start having these talks. How do you think these things work? How do these predictions work? How does the, you know, how is the universe doing this? Why is astrology relevant? How does, you know, aromatherapy and, you know, and color energy work? How do crystals do their thing? What is going on with that? And there's the divine masculine, I think, needs to be, because we have enough of the other divine masculine. We have enough of the fiery, angry, you know, aggressor, fight or flight, you know, dominant, you know, competitiveness. We need to, that needs to tone down. And we also have the component of the divine feminine. Water is pretty damn, you know, is pretty damn high as well. And we need to tone that down. We need to bring the earth and the air up, if that makes sense. You know, earth, get grounded, get understanding, you know, find some longevities, find some consistencies, consistency in your vibrational frequency, consistency in your aura. Why should you only have one good day a month? You know, that kind of thing. That's all earth. There's the divine feminine that needs, we need more earth, not water. We need more air, not fire. And does that make sense?
Yes.
You know? Because
yeah, integration of all, I think, is very important. We should have a bit of all of it.
Yeah.
And
just rearrange, you know. I'm not chastising one or the other. I'm not saying fire is a terrible, dangerous thing, and I'm not saying that water is, you know, a self-destructive thing. I'm just saying that it's out of balance. You know, they can lead to those behaviors. You know, but I think that it doesn't necessarily mean that they themselves, that's inherent to who they are. And I think that when it comes to raising consciousness, I always encourage people, you know, like I said, this life is a formality. Your obligations to the system, for now, treat them as a formality. Obviously, don't do, you know, don't do what you can't do. If you can get off the grid and be happy and safe and healthy, and, you know, go do it. I envy you. I envy you for that. But don't chastise yourself for not being able to do that. At the same time, don't go back and try and worship the system. There's a difference. You know, does that make sense? There's a difference. If you need to, you know, if you need to go through the healthcare system because you have a situation that you cannot handle at home with the information and the knowledge that you have, you're not a bad person for asking somebody who does have, you know, at least for their opinion, at least for their feelings, at least for their analysis, you know, and you know, don't hate yourself for it. Don't worship like as we have. Don't worship money. Don't worship Western medicine. Don't worship, you know, politics. Don't. I mean, because you're not treating, you know, because when you treat something as a formality, you're only doing it because you're, you know, it's a formality. It's just a custom. It's not necessarily a custom you have to, you know, again, obsess over. So, I mean, you think about the life you want to live, and you realize that when you tap into these energies, you tap into these powers, you get connected, all of a sudden, You don't give a crap about lottery tickets because, you know, manifestation, okay, magic, creation, the richness in that is, as you said before, everything you need is provided. And you provide it with those energies. You already have that right now. You don't need a $10 million lottery ticket to get everything provided to you. We think we do, but we're actually taking the long way around. We're taking the long way around. And again, the same goes for everything else that's going on. Do we really need to wait for Congress to pass a bill that says, let's be kind to our neighbors, let's help people when we need them, you know, or do we really need to wait for, you know, we don't need to do those things. Do we need to wait for the stock market to say yes before we go out and try and build or find a home for ourselves? No. So why are we so into that system? You know, unplugging isn't just about turning off your computer. It's never that simple. When you think back, you know, back to old like phone operating boards like in the 40s and 50s, and you had all these operators, like, got all those plugs. You got way more than just one plug, you know. And some of us, you know, we're ripping plugs out handfuls at a time. Some people are, you know, just carefully poking them. Some people have had their plugs yanked, you know, by circumstance. What are you still plugged into?
Absolutely.
You know,
Yep.
what are you still plugged into?
Again, it is taking responsibility for ourselves, and that is, you know, unplugging from a system of any kind of system. Doesn't matter what it is for us.
Oh, sure.
It is waiting for something or someone to tell us what to do next,
Yes.
telling us how things are supposed to go and how to go about it, and taking that responsibility and unplugging from different things, different sources of whatever it is that we have become conditioned to follow since we were birthed into this world, whether it be the government system, whether it be, you know, the people around a society, social media, or what have you. And it's unplugging, like you said, from several different entities, systems that have ruled us for so long and owned us for so long. And so it's taking that responsibility. It is a process. It is not, it's not that easy to just unplug from it all.
No, it's not. But, you know, again, go within. Because you might, you know, because we all come into this world without certain plugs as well. You know, I myself, you know, let's talk about things like the institution of marriage for a minute. That's a huge plug. Now, I'm not saying I don't want to have a life partner. That resonates with me a lot, but I already went within and I know I'm somebody who wants to be in a monogamous, long-term partnership, long-term relationship. The institution of marriage as it is, what marriage is, what marriage means on a religious, political, you know, and status level, I've never plugged into those things. I've never plugged into those things. So that's just not something that I have to face. Some people do. You know, some people do have to think like, really, is it about the term and the piece of paper more than it is about the relationship? Is it about having, you know, the license? You know, I mean, but again, that's also part of the trap. That's part of the illusion trap, isn't it? Because it's like, okay, now don't go get this license and you go do these legally binding contracts and you merge everything together. You will be rewarded, and guess what will incentivize it? Here's your tax breaks, Here's your hospital benefits. Here's your insurance benefits. Here are all these things that are saying it's way more worth it to stay in the system. Find a plug, plug on in. And that is, again, people don't necessarily understand that. Or maybe it's a religious thing. You know, maybe it's not politics, maybe it's religion, maybe it's family. There are lots of plugs. There are lots of plugs. You know, so when you go within, find a plug and unplug every once in a while. You may have 200 plugs. And if you go through the next 3 or 4 years and maybe you only unplug, you know, 10 or 20, guess what? The quality of life you have improves. There's more energy for you. You're not engaging in energy currency grabs. You know, you're not playing into that role. You know, and it's so important to think about even now with Christmas, you know, because Christmas can be such a, I mean, obviously it can be very consumerist, but Christmas can be such a big, I guess you could say, reminder of the polarity between love and institution, because I think the vibrations around Christmas are usually pretty high. That week between Christmas and New Year's, everyone's getting together, having a good time, you know. It can be very wonderful. The years are both very romantic as well, you know, fun for children. Those are all wonderful things. And the vibrations collectively do raise very high. But on the other side of it, consume, consume, consume. You know, are you spending tons of money on having a party every night of that week between the 24th, Christmas Eve, and New Year's Eve? Are you shelling out tons of money for presents? Are you shelling out tons of money, in a lot of cases some people do, to update your home or your wardrobe so you can impress somebody? That is the plug, you know. And but we deal with those things every day of the year. It's got nothing to do with Christmas and New Year's. So
it's just amplified.
It's just amplified. And there are other times of the year where, you know, again, the plug times are amplified in a very big way. You know, obviously you talk about fiscal quarters when it comes to, you know, again, Wall Street and the stock market, or you talk about elections. We've got a big election year, and I personally, looking at the astrology we go into this year, you know, a lot of stuff is that we've got Mercury crossing Pluto at the end of this week on the 19th. And then we've also got it crossing Pluto twice more in January. It's going to retrograde over it and it's going to go back. And I feel like some big shifts are going to happen in the first 3 months of the year. And usually with Mercury and Pluto, you get a lot going on. In my Ambient Alchemy Weekly Horoscope, I talk about data overload this week, especially towards the end of this week. I do predict that hacking is going to be a big deal in the first 3 months of this year. You know, cyber crimes, hacking, things along those lines. And a lot of information is going to start leaking out. And this is not the kind of thing that you would have to go to, you know, a conspiracy website or, you know, alternative thing to view. These are big hacking things. Remember when the IRS got hacked earlier this year, you know, and everyone knew about it because that's just not something you can hide. I feel like it's going to be something very similar to that. I'm not sure if it's that branch or, you know, if it's something else, but we're seeing a lot of leaks and a lot of holes. You know, because Mercury, as you know, is all about information and technology, and Capricorn is all about establishment, and then Pluto is all about control, and, you know, having this boom, 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 you know, also igniting that Uranus-Pluto square, the boundaries, you know, the boundaries, or I guess you could say the densities that are holding these systems in place are becoming so much more malleable, so much more porous. You know, it's a very thin, you want to talk about opening the veils in a macrocosmic example, people are able to hack into the government and start, you know, doing whatever the heck they want. You know, you have groups like Anonymous going and, you know, hacking into, you know, ISIS Twitter accounts. You've got all those kinds of things. I think that there is going to be, you know, some holes opening up. It's like the glass is chipping. You know, if the whole or the, you know, if the ceramic is chipping here, like if this cup of coffee represented, you know, the institution, whatever it is, you know, it's cracking all over. My cup's not cracking, but this could, you know, it's cracking all over. And so when these hacks and these leaks and all these things come out, what's coming out through the cracks actually breaks the glass faster. That's what's really interesting. It's what's inside the vessel that bursts out the vessel. People are putting the cracks and the holes in it, but it's what's on the inside that bursts out. This is not an implosion. So I would definitely say, just if you guys are all out there looking for transparency, I think I even said in that video, like, yeah, this would be definitely, you know, the last week of the year, just keep your eyes open. There's something very interesting going on. I feel like this would be the time. I don't really go in for geopolitical conspiracy stuff all the time. You know, I do have my ear to the ground, but I'm not like obsessing over it. But I may actually decide to look around for a night or two, you know, just take a night, make a cup of tea and be like, what's going on? You know, the 19th, 20th, and 21st. Because it's very intense.
Get the popcorn out.
Huh?
Get the popcorn out.
Yeah, exactly. Get the popcorn out. You know, just watch. But all of our glasses are cracking in some way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, things are going to be happening, and it's just you're right. You know, everything. You know, since we are birthed into this world, we are, being marketed somehow. Everything is a cash in, so to speak, for lack of better words, being charged for the air that we breathe practically in every moment. So it's about, you're right, that, I was born and raised in church. Mm-hmm. Pentecostal church, not just church, Pentecostal church. There was a demon behind every broomstick and doorknob, and everything was the devil's fault. Everything was Satan, and everything was, temptation, this, and, the devil made you do it. And it was very interesting, I was raised in it. So, and I got married, and I agree with what you said. I've been divorced since '98, but I went through the unconditioning and had to unplug myself from that whole thing as well. And my awakening was a part of what led me to divorce. I was needing to unplug from the religion. All the things that I had been, what had been literally pounded into my head to believe in, and what I was supposed to be in this world, etc. And the whole, I don't need a piece of paper either. I'm single today by choice, and I'm not needing a relationship to find validity.
Right.
And if I do, I'm literally in this place where, well, if it happens, it happens. I'm not striving for it. I'm not focusing on that or anything. I found, myself, and I have found it was a big thing for me to unplug from, because I had to get out of this mode of, I'm nobody without somebody, or I should get remarried, or what have you. And, and if a relationship happens, I'm not going to play into the marriage thing again, simply because I don't need the piece of paper to say that I'm committed to someone, and the religious thing, I don't need anyone telling me that, I'm being ruled by the devil and instilling fear in me. That is really a wall of illusions.
Yes.
That will own me and take from me and that divine masculine, that divine feminine, which are beautiful, both of them in their own essence, I can integrate those within me and not fear my sexuality or my sexual desire as a sexual human being, or what I deem is okay to go out and have a few drinks of alcohol with some friends. I don't get drunk. I like to enjoy wine,
Yeah.
but I don't need anyone telling me that the partaking of alcohol is going to turn me into an alcoholic or what have you. And it's just a lot of unplugging for me to do. So I agree that we all have to research ourselves and reconnect with ourselves and say there is absolutely nothing wrong with who I am and why I'm here, and the things that I love about myself and about this beautiful life and the experiences that we all have. And then in turn, going on that grander scale of what's going on around us, we are not, here to fear and just get into that mode of well, I just totally want to unplug and go off the grid. Well, you know what? There's nothing wrong with that. There are a lot. I lived on the Hawaiian Islands, and there's a lot of off the grid people out there, and kudos to them. They're absolutely happy and content. It's not for everybody, and I'm not saying that everybody should or shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's your life path, your life experience. Enjoy it for what it is and be in this beautiful existence that we're in. We chose, we choose in every moment whether or not we want to live in fear and in resistance to who and what we really are, which is the divine masculine and feminine. We should integrate. We should embrace who we are and give ourselves some self-love and validity of our own, to know that we are a beautiful, vast part of this, great thing happening, this existence. And so many people are, separated within so much that they are so torn, and so then they look outwardly and they get lost in, I'm going to use the word again. I like it, I guess. They get lost in the fear porn of everything going on around them. And
what did Nostradamus say about this year? And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And really, there isn't anything to fear.
No.
And what if anything? What is everything out there happening on the external, the government stuff, everything you see on the news or whatever? It's a teacher to us. Go ahead.
No, should you be afraid of it? There's a test of your attachment. What if the US dollar just fell to pieces tomorrow?
What if it does?
Afraid of it? Should you be afraid of it, or should you perhaps just kind of look at that as like, okay, this too is a part of divine order?
Mm-hmm.
If suddenly there was no more Wall Street for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
regardless of how much you had in there, non-attachment. If they did say that that it's, you've got to be able to obviously stay present, and work with it. But again, the government is, not just the government, but yeah, or what if there was like some huge scandal with, I doubt this, but like the Dalai Lama or something like that, what would happen? What would you do? What would everyone do? Sometimes, again, you're plugged into, you can get too plugged into those things too. Some people plug in way too many plugs to spiritual practices. That's where the rises of cult leaders and things like that come up.
Absolutely. It is true. I mean, so what is it that we are going to choose in this very moment right now, in this moment? Because anything could happen. While you and I are talking here, anything could happen outside the doors. And It is all, you're right, it is all absolute divine order. It is absolutely a beautiful thing. It is by deliberate design and of, you know, our own, because of our choices.
Yes.
And you know, we are here to be a part of something bigger, and we are not here to fall and, you know, go running out the doors screaming the sky is falling, the world is ending. This is, we're falling for it all, hook, line, and sinker, if we're going to do that, no matter how big of a scale we decide to do that on. And
And
question every,
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
no, I was going to say question everything within yourself.
Yeah.
Why are you so afraid of it? What are you afraid of? And really look at all that we have seen happen in our lifetime, and look what people, you know, our parents and our grandparents and great grandparents and so forth, look at all that they have seen and experienced and endured in their lifetimes, yet we're still here.
We are still here. And that's where, again, the community thought comes in, though. What if it did all just go away? I'm not worried about it. I've got good relationships with my neighbors. I've got good relationships with my friends. If all of the sudden, you know, we had to turn the allotment at the back of this cul-de-sac into a farm, and we needed to all take turns, you know, taking care of each other's kids, and we all had to work on growing our own medicine, or, you know, or do something, you know, in that kind of scenario, which is, you know, highly unlikely as it is as proposed, but I'm not afraid of that. I'm not averse to that, you know, to that outcome. I'm not like horrified. I'm not thinking about, you know, because immediately when people think that, then they go straight to the crazy shit. You know, sorry for my language, but they go straight to that, and it's kind of like, I'm gonna go buy 50 guns and like 900 cans of peas, and I'm gonna go and see what I can do to secure my 401k, and we're gonna go get like 200 gallons of gasoline and all kinds of weird stuff. And it's like, hold on a second, you're already showing fear. You're already showing you are not prepared to go if that is the divine order. If the divine order was to wipe out the internet tomorrow, wipe out all currency tomorrow, and wipe out all government tomorrow, if that was in divine order, if you could not accept, live, and embrace that as where you are, and suddenly, instead of getting off the grid got off us, you're not, you're still, there's some stuff to unplug. There's some stuff to unplug.
Absolutely. Living in Kauai, I learned and saw something completely different out there than I had seen here on the mainland. It was sort of a culture shock for me. It was absolutely amazing and beautiful, and I saw something completely different and saw that it does exist, that community does exist. You know, the island of Kauai, and I believe all the islands actually could do this, but having seen how the local restaurants, not the big chains, the local restaurants and the local grocery stores and cafes, they used, you know, all organic product. It was all food from the island, you know, the sugar and the flour and all the veggies and the fruits and everything came from the local farmers. And so you go to any local cafe or local grocery store, it all came straight from the island. And if all the, you know, corporate and chain stores and restaurants left those islands, they totally could survive. And
They would probably
and there
still
was,
have their, yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm
And
sorry. I have a really bad way of doing that when I drink too much coffee. You finish. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. You're fine. No, it was just beautiful to see that there was a sense of community, and you know, and for anyone who's been on the islands before or have lived there, know that, you know, their way of greeting you, they don't like to handshake, they like to hug, and because you were immediately family,
Yeah.
and And there is a love and there's a sense of community all over the place. Everyone helps each other. And I know their you know, welfare system there on the islands is completely different from here. And a lot of the hitchhikers, you know, and off the gridders will get a card, and they call it something, I can't remember. I know somebody from the islands or who's been there before will know what I'm talking about. It was something, it's something to do, they call it gift of love or whatever, instead of, you know, welfare card or what have you, or food stamps. And it's easier to get. I mean, a lot of people just go and fill out some paperwork, and you automatically get like just so much money a month to survive on. They take care of people on the island, and there's, you know, fruit stands and every, you know, everywhere. It's just standing alone. They're unmanned, and the farmers go put fresh fruit and veggies in these stands, and it's an honor system. You know, they ask maybe $2.50 and take what you need or what have you, and it's honored.
And their currency is probably all cash, not credit.
Yeah,
you know, because credit, you know, here's the thing, all of our currency, you know, because, you know, the formality of currency, the formality of money has gotten more and more controlled, because we literally are losing our physical representation of that energy. It's all numbers. It's all digital now. You know, that's why your corporate employer or your corporate bank is closer to you and more influential to you than your neighbor or your parents or your brother and your sister. You know, and when you go back to that, if one must have a barter system or a currency system or something like that, maybe we need to start talking about how the, you know, people on Earth, you know, everywhere need to start paying attention to how much trust they put into the electronic world, the electronic community. No, again, there are incentives in place to do that. Open a Roth IRA, put all these numbers into this other bag of numbers and watch it go up over the next 35 years. Don't put cash somewhere, you know. But maybe that's another control, another plug, you know.
Yeah, it is. It was a huge difference. There were a lot of, you know, things that I saw on the island where the people were together and working together without the system. And so, you know what, if the system were to fall apart and we suddenly didn't have our banks or whatever, you know, I think that the Hawaiian Islands and other places around the world that are similar in that way would definitely survive with no problem. It's us here on the mainland that would panic, and
we would panic for a minute. And again, that would only be fear for losing something we didn't know how to cope with losing.
Yeah.
Because honestly, if such a thing did happen, which you never know how it would happen, you know, is there like you know, like I said, is it just the government collapses, the dollar collapses, you know, Wall Street goes away, the solar flare destroys all internet accounts, whatever. We'd have to live like it was 1894, but the advances we've made, what we can do without all that technology, they would stay. Because there are a lot of things we've learned to do, and we can do without those things. We've learned cures that we can make without, you know, the grid, without laser beams, without any of those things. We've already learned that, and maybe that's what this last 120 years was all about, just learning how and then simplifying with that new knowledge. You know, we're going green, you know, people are making movements to understand their food better. People are understanding what does and does not cause cancer. I think that people are also in a situation right now where they're learning how to, you know, yeah, they're learning how to, you know, keep their diabetes in remission. People are learning how to better, you know, create fuel. You know, if we did need electricity, I mean, you could, people are learning how to turn corn oil into generator fuel on YouTube. You know, you can do these things, and you can definitely, I mean, yeah, sure, that just means you'll have enough electricity to like cook a roast and, you know, have a hot shower, but who knows, maybe that's all you really goddamn need, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that learning how, not in the interest of prepping for an apocalypse, but just learning how to do for yourself is better. People don't know how to do anything anymore. Nobody knows how to sew. Nobody knows how to cook. Nobody knows how to make their own, you know, make their own resources, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that the worst places in an event like that would definitely obviously be the urban areas, the urban communities, because I think urban is the most plugged in. It's not even plugged, it's not even the plug, it's the board you plug into. That's how plugged in it is. And so I think that, you know, if we learned to have, you know, urban homesteads, if we learn to have, you know, ways to, you know, people, if they want to live in an urban environment, why aren't they learning how to create, you know, and live a little bit more instead of living for the convenience? Because that's one of the biggest plugs that we have. It's the interest of convenience. What's, you know, what I mean, you and I, you know, you and I do it too. We both have Amazon Prime. You know, that is what it's, you know, it happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, you plug into the convenience. I could walk, you know, half a mile to the, you know, to the craft store, and God knows my body probably wants to, you know, and that would be good. And maybe that's something I should learn to do. Okay, start cutting out the unnecessaries. How do you live more wholesomely and holistically? And again, rebuild those communities with people. You know, it takes a village. I always believe that. We haven't had a village in a long time. Died in the 80s. Looking back at the astrology, I think that's when we lost the village. That's also when the internet came online. That's when, you know, digital trading came online. That's when everything started to really kind of push so fast and so forward in a technological convenience, you know, plug-in direction, that we lost the village. And if that's one thing I would say that needs to be understood, you know, as behind every message shared in this video, is that we need the village back. I know all my neighbors. I love my neighborhood because, you know what? It's just typical suburban American neighborhood, but it's a little bit different. All the guys have like a tool share you can sign up for. You know, we're always talking about fixing each other's yards or painting each other's houses. A lot of the wives and the women around here work, because that's just the world we live in right now. I mean, nobody can really afford to have a single income household. Well, some people can, but it's certainly not the majority. And so there's like a schedule of after school care for the young ones. And it's just like, and everyone knows everyone. Everyone's looking out for everybody. You know, if the guy across the street, you know, wants to clear out some of his vegetation, you know, somebody will come and do that. My neighbor across the street was kind of digging up her whole garden, and, you know, she was asking me if, like, you know, she could just give me some starters because she didn't want to throw them away. I mean, we've all got a really good relationship here, and it's still not as close as it could be. It's still not a village, you know, but I do think that we need our village back, and we've lost the village. And even in the spiritual community, the boundaries are so tight. You don't, you know, there's no village, you know. So how do we get our village back? Well, funny enough, plugging in to find community is antithetical to having your village. You know, so there's another place to unplug to.
Absolutely. Going back to basics, though, we really are. It might be a slow process, but we are relearning to, you know, do these things. There's an organic farm here, and it's the only one here for miles and miles and miles. And one of the people in this family, they go and travel the country, and they teach other people and communities how to grow their own organic, you know, gardening and farms, and teach them how to do it all without, you know, they show them how to do, you know, some irrigation work, you know, that's natural,
Yeah.
and things like that. And so there are people out there that are actually helping helping us, you know, remember or relearn, you know, for those of us who weren't born in the 1800s.
All of us, yeah.
Yeah, you know, we're just relearning how to go back to basics, and this is where we reconnect with one another. And I tell you what, I really do like, you know, just stepping away from the computer after, you know, I do a lot of online work. I have a lot of clientele around the world, so it's a lot of Skyping and things like that. And
yeah.
then of course we got our websites and everything, you know, yeah, everything's, you know, electronic right now, but I do enjoy it when I step away and then I just go and do my painting and my artwork and just start actually talking to people face to face and you know, in the same room.
You know? Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Yeah. Or go out for drinks and just have a good time, you know. And I think that especially if you're people like you or me who you run your own business, you work from home, you have got to do double time on that. You know, I clocked myself. I spend upwards of 10 to 11 hours a day in this room. If I'm not mindful and I don't break it up like I do, you know, I don't work in here all the time. If I have things that don't require a computer, I'm out of the room. If I'm going to relax, if I'm going to read, I'm sure as hell not going to do it in here. You know, so that's my way of trying to unplug as well, unplug some more. I think that for people, being able to unplug is going to get easier and easier, again, as we start to see maybe in the macrocosm showing us exactly what the problem is. You know, if more of these cyber attacks and hackings go on, you know, people are starting to lose their confidence in these systems that are put forward. They are going to start pulling their resources back. You know, whether they pull their resources back because, again, they're not putting all their money in retirement accounts and stock funds, or they want to do long-term food storage, or, you know, grow their own food, or they want to do less without electricity, or they want to cut back on whatever. People are waking up to that as well. You know?
Yep. Absolutely. This is what it's about. This is communing in unity that we are talking about. Reconnecting with ourselves. We have to make our own choices personally, but we don't have to walk it alone.
No.
And we have to start reconnecting with each other as well.
And that's when we need the village.
Yes.
We need to get our village back. And a lot of people need to understand that you don't have to worry about language barriers. I have so many people, and I just sent you a message. I do need to, I have a about, but one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of spiritual people, a lot of seekers are kind of like, this person doesn't speak my language. This person is like, well, maybe you need to find your language with them. I mean, I can commune with people, I can bond with people. My cousins and I are really close, and we don't, they're not on this path. In a way, they're way more enlightened than me. They never respond to my Facebook just because they're never on Facebook, which is good, you know. So in many ways they are. And so I'm kind of like, look, you don't have to validate my journey by speaking my lexicon and using my jargon and saying what I say and do what I do. What if the person next door is an atheist, and the lady across the street is a Christian, and the guy who lives behind you is Jewish? Who cares? You know, stop thinking about trying to get everyone again to plug into a new plug. You know, focus on your village. Focus on your village. Build a village, not this. Don't build a new, I guess you could say, grid. Build a village. And if we can actually get to a point where we are building a village, whether it's the global village or You know, or maybe we're not meant to have a global village. If you think about that, maybe we're not meant to have a global village. Maybe we're not meant to do that. Maybe we're not meant to have that much, because that's a huge, you know, in a sense, you're kind of building the grid again. You know, maybe our village is, you know, can be big. Maybe it's bigger than this city block. Maybe it's bigger than one country. You know, maybe it's bigger than one continent, but you have to have your village. And to commune in unity is to do it without, again, the plug or the semantics or the lexicon. If somebody doesn't want to talk about, you know, ascension and astrology and angel oracle cards and ascended masters, because that's just not in their lexicon, that's just not on their journey, you can talk about all kinds of other things. You can talk about food, you can talk about relationships, you could talk about, you know, recreation. Do you have anything fun? Do you have music in common that you both enjoy? Do you need to have that even? Can't you just like the person for who they are? You know? Do we need to?
Absolutely.
It's you know, because I mean, I personally don't think that the road to enlightenment is something that comes from just, you know, blanking out and cutting yourself off. You know, that's not what you do on the road to, you do that every once in a while, but that's not how you stay on the road to enlightenment. The road to enlightenment is also not always going to be lit up by the planets and astrology. The road is not paved in tarot cards and angel oracle cards, you know, so you've got to be able to have your village without a dependence on those things too, because you don't want to turn those things into plugs.
Absolutely. That's it. That's the beauty of this whole thing, this whole experience, is that that there are so many beautiful beings out there, people that I really enjoy. That's why, you know, all the videos I've done this, you know, so far in the last couple of weeks, every single person is completely different from the other. And it's not about whether you agree with them or not, or whether or not you like them or not. It is just that, to me, I appreciate something about everybody, because we are all a part of the same thing. We are all, you know, I am you and you are me. We are all, you know, in this together. And it's about connecting and no longer separating yourself just because you think that that person's not enlightened, or you think that that one, you know, you don't like that they're atheists and don't believe in anything, or, you know, it's not about that. It's get off our high horse and understand that we are all unique, but yet the same, and we are a big part of something together. And you know, when you and I were Skyping the other day, I said, you know, we're the hand is different from the nose and the foot, and but we are all part of the same body. And it doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what language you speak, it doesn't matter what country you were born in, what your traditions are, or anything. We can come together. You know what? And if it comes to this, you know, and I've seen a lot of people go through this, but if it comes to this, to wake you up to, you know, this particular thing, you might end up in a situation to where the person that comes running to help you is the very person that you judged and wanted nothing to do with, because they weren't up to par in your standards.
Exactly. And I've always had people ask, because, you know, I get people on, you know, online sometimes, either YouTube comments or, you know, even in readings, and they're like, I can't find anyone to connect to. I can't learn anything from these people. They're not on the spiritual path, or they're not on the path that I'm on. We don't resonate. And I said, okay, well, hold on a minute. So you're already telling yourself that these people have nothing to teach you, even though that they are brought into your life in divine order. You've got nothing to learn from them. You're putting up your learning disability here. You know, it's an impairment. We all have our impairments that come from conditioning. Even if the lady next door was an atheist and didn't believe in anything and thought that when you were talking about, you know, aliens and angels and astrology and magic, that you might be a high-functioning schizophrenic, you know, the fact that she is the queen of not worrying Make her the Buddha in your life that you could learn something from.
Yeah.
If it's like, hold on a second, you can't turn off your brain, but you're very spiritual. You have chronic anxiety, worry issues, you know, and some of us do. You know, I'm better than I was, but every once in a while I will get to that place. So I like to learn from people, whoever they are, that for some reason know how to just kind of leave that out and not make it their 24/7. That to me is a form of enlightenment. They don't need to talk to me about magic and ascended masters. They don't need to talk to me about goddesses and, you know, and tablets and prophecies, because it's like, hold on, you've already got something that I need to learn. You know, the lady across the street, you know, is basically running 3 home businesses. And, you know, she's a fairly conservative Christian person. You know, I get the vibe. She might not be too comfortable with the gay thing, but she's very nice to me and very respectful. She doesn't put her beliefs on me, and we've gotten closer. You know, we've gotten to know each other better. There's, you know, so maybe I'm teaching her something and she's teaching me something about home business, because we do talk about those things, you know. And again, I don't, you know, there are some things that I feel about her where I'm kind of like, I don't really get into the whole, like, again, we talked about currency for like 20 minutes, we don't talk about it again. But, you know, there's some things, you know, so as long as you allow yourself to listen, you know, and have your village and not look for that affirmation, that confirmation and validation everywhere you go, you know, you're going to be in good shape. You know, you really are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really agree with that. You just never know who has been set in your path and for what reason. I do like to see people as my teachers. And even in my life, in my experiences in the past, some people who were the most, in my mind, the most unexpected, unlikely that I thought would ever come to help me when I was in time of need, were the very people that I had separated myself from because they weren't up to my standards, and I have been humbled in my life.
Yeah.
So I have learned a lesson to never ever set myself apart from anyone because of the differences that we have. And I've learned to see the beauty in every single person around us. And this is a very big lesson that I think a lot of people are learning as we speak. And
people are
it
doing it
is,
well. People are doing it well.
yeah.
I think more people than fewer are sick and tired of a lot of things. You know, they want to open their arms to refugees. There are some people that want to go the extra mile and talk about, like, let's just get rid of the notion of immigration and national borders. You know, let's just get rid of.
Oh, I just lost you, Nico. Oh, we just lost him. Let's have a second here to, yeah, he's got, we're gonna have to probably end it. He had to go anyways. We can give it a couple more minutes, but yes, as far as what Nico and I were talking about, this is what it's about. It's about us coming in together and understanding that it's time for us to really seek ourselves and seek our truth here. And I see he's trying to come back in, and we'll end it here. As if he comes back in, I want him to have, you know, to say one more thing before we go. But I do want to thank everybody for joining us and listening to us today. I really hope that you take from this what was needed for you individually. This is about you making choices for yourself, but understanding that we both come here in unity and we both come here in love, that we are here to do something different. And we are in the learning process as well. We don't come across to you as, you know, we're the gurus and we have all the answers, and we're still having this life experience ourselves. So, and Nico's having problems coming back in, but I do hope that that you all enjoyed our time. And I will put Nico's information here. with Scarlet Moon. And he does some great things. He actually has a heart of gold, and I absolutely love his energy. And I love what he brings to the table. We are all so different from each other, but yet we're the same. We're here in this together. We have to make our own individual choices again, but we don't have to walk the journey alone. So we're all here for a reason. And I do hope that Nico does have to go. So I'm going to go ahead and end it right in here. And I know that he is grateful for everyone who listened today, and I know I am, and we both thank you, and there will be more actually. Nico and I talked, and I talked with also Christopher Smith, and I think the three of us are going to do a video together. Nico and Chris have done work together before, and I really enjoy what the dynamics between the two of them, so I will do a video with them as soon as we can get our schedule straight. And you'll see the three of us here soon. So, but again, thank you so much for joining us today. We love you, and we both appreciate you, and we are here for you. So enjoy the day and be in the moment. And don't forget that you are very, very loved. So namaste, mahalo, mwah. Thank you again. Bye-bye.